Hello friends, welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, my name is Francella. I am a flight attendant working with a major US airline company. Welcome to my next location. This video might be late, but I'm here to talk about summer flying from a new flight attendant's perspective. It might be late, but summer comes and goes. We're gonna have summer next year, and I tell you the situation might probably be the same, okay? So if you find this video next year, it is evergreen content. It is a lot. It is a lot. Like, I was warned when I was in training, or when I got on the line, I was warned several times, but I got on the line around May, right? Towards the end of April, May. So summer flying had not really happened. So I was a bit like, well, you guys keep saying it, but it's been good. Then it hit, and I was like, oh my God. Okay. I see what you're talking about now. Summer flying is a lot. It is a lot, especially when you're just getting on the line. You're still trying to figure things out, and to have all these unforeseen circumstances happen, it becomes a lot, and it can hit really hard. And if you're commuting, that's even worse. So you rest assured, it's going to be okay, okay? It's gonna be all right. It's gonna be all right. So one of the things, I do have my notes here, so if I'm referring to my phone, I'm just looking at my notes. But one of the things that happens a lot during summer flying is reroute. So reroutes essentially is that you can literally be in the middle of working a trip, a rotation. You're probably literally on the flight right now going to Atlanta. They might say, no, you're gonna do Atlanta to New York, or Atlanta to something else, or just completely change your rotation. That's how drastic it can be. You might have had plans of getting released on your last day. Maybe this is a 3-day rotation. You might have had plans of getting released on your 3rd day by 6 a.m. You might get flipped, turned, twisted, and pushed to the extent that you end up getting released at what? 11 p.m. at night on your last day. You might have had plans of having a duty day today of being maybe 9 hours, and then next thing you know, you're getting rerouted, and whatever is happening is causing your duty day to go from 9 to 15. So many things can happen. Reroutes are just one of those things that sometimes it ends up being good, because you might end up at a layover destination that you did not plan for, but you've been wanting for a while. So for me, being a new flight attendant, what I do when it comes to reroutes, or my perspective on reroutes, is that at the end of the day, I am still on duty. So whether I get rerouted or not, I had my plan for today was to come to work and work. So once I have that outlook, I don't really get mad or offended, in the sense that although my plans have changed, maybe I had plans of meeting up with a friend at this layover destination, but I get rerouted. Maybe I'm supposed to go to New York. I get rerouted to go to Boston. I can't do my New York plans anymore. So that might kind of irk a bit and hurt, in a sense that you get disappointed. Maybe you made plans and stuff like that. But for me as a flight attendant, or a new flight attendant, as I've always said, I don't dwell on negativity. It is exhausting, it is draining, and I want no parts of it. So my perspective would be that I was already scheduled to work. So whether I get rerouted or not, I was already scheduled to work. So I'm still working, and that's how I get over that. The other thing that happens is cancellation. Cancellations have happened so much. Honestly, as a new flight attendant, I've heard people say, I haven't deadheaded in a while. I haven't deadheaded in a long time. But deadheading essentially means when, for whatever reason, you're being flown on company's time to go work a rotation somewhere else, or to position you to work a trip, or for whatever reason, your last trip back home got canceled. So then you get deadheaded, which means you get flown as a passenger, like a customer and everything, to your base so your rotation can end. You're getting paid during that time. So it's essentially flying as a passenger on a flight and getting paid even though you're not working that flight. That's what deadheaded means. But I have deadheaded so many times that I can't even count anymore due to cancellations and delays. So I'll get to delays, but cancellations will happen, and it's quite unfortunate, especially from the customer perspective, because they paid for that flight. You made plans, and knowing me, flying as a customer, your entire day was planned around this trip. So for that to happen, and especially if it's in the middle of your trip, let's say I'm going to Ghana, I have to do Seattle to JFK JFK, JFK to Accra. If I do Seattle to JFK and I get to JFK and the flight gets canceled, that's me in a different state with nowhere to go. Like literally stranded at a different state. I can't go to my final destination. I'm in limbo right now. So it can get quite uncomfortable and very disappointing and hurtful. As a flight attendant, it becomes uncomfortable because it can potentially prolong your duty period or the plans or how long your rotation will be. The month of July was a lot. Like, it was just too much going on. Summer was summering, I'm telling you. It was so bad to the extent that I had at least two-day trips that were supposed to be 2 days. I was supposed to leave today and return the following, layover somewhere and return the following day. It was supposed to be 2 days, but ended up being 3 days. It was just too much going on. One was as a result of delay and cancellation. The other one was as a result of just delays. So when that happens, it's like, imagine if you have a trip started right after this and you were planning on getting off a certain time just to work that gets a good amount of rest just to work your following trip. So those cancellations can hurt. It can be frustrating and annoying, but I am here to tell you to take it in good faith. It is not always that bad. It will get better. So summer flying, cancellations, reroutes, they get hurt to the core. I'm not playing with you. Like, if you're not a flight attendant and you're just watching this video just to support me, I appreciate you, thank you. But these are some of the struggles that we go through during summer. So when you get on that plane as a customer or as a passenger, please be pleasant, please be nice. We understand you're also frustrated. I'm with you. I am on the same accord with you. So take it easy as I'm taking it easy, okay? Because it's not easy for all of us. We're all impacted. And sometimes I hear this from a lot of flight attendants where some passengers get on the plane or they treat the airline employees as though we're not affected by this either. We are, just as you are, we are. If there's a cancellation, if there's a reroute, or for whatever reason, not a cancellation, a delay or anything, we are affected too. So we are on the receiving end of whatever impact that may cause. So don't treat your gate agents badly. Don't treat your flight attendants badly because there's been cancellation. They're affected too. Like a gate agent who had plans on going home at 7 p.m. might potentially go home later because of this cancellation. So take it easy on all of us. We're all in the same boat. This ties me into my other point, which is delays. Delays do happen. Delays happens once again for several reasons. As I shared in one of my story time, a crew member not showing up, among other things, whether waiting for weather to get better or for the storm to move to a different location so we can fly towards our destination. But summer flying, it's been a lot. Like I said, I have had to deadhead so many times because of delays. And it's one of those things where it's part of the industry that we're in. So as a customer, I would say until you're in that aircraft and that aircraft has taken off, prepare yourself for these things: delays, cancellation. Like, nothing is guaranteed because the job is highly dependent on what happens in the sky or what is going on at the destination you're going. If that airport is swamped and they're overfilled and can't not receive us, we can't not go. So in as much as I understand you've purchased a ticket, you expect to be at this destination at this point in time, if it doesn't happen, it's annoying. And I understand you. As a flight attendant, my time is on the line too. If we get delayed, we're not getting paid our flight pay. So whatever pay or premium or whatever compensation that we're getting, it is not our flight pay. It is not our hourly pay. So we're losing to an extent. So imagine all these delays that's been happening. Flight attendants are not getting compensated the way they should. So we're offended. Like, the other thing that happens is during summer flying, or you should expect, is oversold flight. And I get it. I know you're gonna say, why oversell? But there's a whole reasoning behind it, and I'm not here to go into all that. That's between the airline industry and the airline industry. But all I'm gonna say is that as a flight attendant, flights will be oversold. There'll be moments where people would have to be gotten off that flight before the flight can move, and that can be frustrating because it causes delays. It rolls into pushing back and messing up your rotation and the plans that you have. But be prepared for summer flying. this is one of the things that might happen. Unfortunately, it is what it is, I guess. But we can go back and forth and argue and say they can do better, don't oversell the flights, don't do A, B, C, D. But as of now, this happens. It's been happening and it's been causing a lot of problems. And it is across board, honestly. And it's so annoying and frustrating. But I experienced that as well. We literally had to wait just to get people off the flight because we could not move because of that. We could not start boarding because of that. The thing I will suggest also during summer flying is that you should meal prep. Make sure you always have food. As I've said, there can be cancellations, delays, reroutes, plans. Your plans might get messed up. So make sure you always have food on you because you never know what's going to happen, where you're going to be sent to, at what point in time. So to protect yourself, make sure that you always have a meal ready to go. Like I always say, I don't play with my food. Whether I'm going to eat it or not is going to be with me. Okay, awesome. The other point that I would like to share is that pack well enough to last, because sometimes because of the reroutes and the cancellations and delays and stuff that are happening, you might get rerouted. And maybe, like I said, I've had two-day trips turn into 3-day trips. So if I packed as though I was going on a 2-day trip, I mean, packing as though you're going on a 2-day trip will probably be good enough for a 3-day trip as well. But imagine if I had a 1-day trip that turned into a 2-day or a 3-day or something, then I'm screwed at that point because I probably would not have taken toiletries or packed as though I was going to stay overnight, because typically our turns, sometimes turns are not overnight. So if I'm not packing for overnight, then we're going to have problems when my trip ends up becoming an overnight trip, you know? So keep that in mind. Pack well enough. Make sure you have clothes. I always say that when I'm packing, when I'm going on a 3-day trip, I pack as though I'm going for a 6-day trip, because I don't know what's going to happen. I might get stuck somewhere, something might happen, the world might shut down. So you never know what's going to happen. So pack a good amount to last you a period of time. So the other thing is that to stay hydrated, when you're on the plane, it can get really dry. Like my legs get crusty, my hands get ashy, my lips dry up. So you have to make sure you're drinking water, because you can easily get dehydrated when you're on flights. And when you're working back-to-back reroutes, delay, toss and turn, flip up, all that happening, it might get lost in the sauce. You might forget to drink water. You might forget to stay hydrated. Staying hydrated is not only about drinking beverages like soda, juices, and stuff like that. Drinking actual water as well. I know some people add electrolytes to their water just so that they get as much nutrients as possible, or whatever the electrolytes are supposed to do, they do. But just make sure that you're drinking liquids, because you can easily get dehydrated when you're flying back to back like that. So keep that in mind, especially during summer. Drink your water, please. Stay hydrated. Pay attention to your work rules. Like I said, you might get delayed, rerouted. Your trips might get extended, even though they weren't even though you didn't plan for it. But with all the commotion and with all the chaos happening, you might be put in a position whereby you might be offered, or you might be thrown into an illegal situation. Illegal situation mean that our duty periods, for example, it's up to 15 hours and a minute. So beyond that, you have the option, for example, to opt off or to continue to work, right? And that rule is there for a reason. It's for your own safety, it's for your own health. Because if you're on a plane, like I said, flight attendants, we are there mainly for safety reasons, and to be ready and in the best position to act when safety calls for it means that you being fit and well to work. And if it's been established that after 15 hours, exhaustion might step in, fatigue might step in, among other things, that's not good for somebody who's there to play a safety role. So if you have the option to opt off at that point and you don't know that you have that option, because scheduling, even though some people might argue otherwise, it's not there to set you up for failure. Like, they are trying to make sure that operational needs are met, right? So there might be certain things that might be done that might necessarily go contrary to what the work rules might state for you, or break any rules that might be in place to make sure that you're in a good position to do your job. But there's nothing wrong with knowing what those rules are and calling it out when it happens. So learn the work rules. Go over them whenever you can. Ask questions if you don't know, or if you're unsure, do not hesitate to ask questions, because if you keep mute, you might be worked into an 18-hour duty day, 17-hour duty day, when you should have been done at 15, or when you should have had the option to opt off at 15. in a minute. So keep that in mind as well. And this is different from every airline. Mine might be 15 hours in a minute, others might be 13, others might be 12, others might be more. So make sure you know your work rules, and then especially around this time, because a lot would happen and somebody might miss something, and you knowing your work rules or asking questions when time calls for it might be the only thing standing between you getting what you deserve and you not getting what you deserve. So keep that in mind. Be prepared for the worst case scenario. Like these days when I fly out or when I leave my house to go on a trip, I am ready for the worst case scenario. So when it does happen, or when a change happens, when a delay or a cancellation or reroute happens, I'm not particularly hurt or disappointed because I'm expecting the worst case scenario. I'm prepared for the worst case scenario. Although this might sound like negative or whatever, no. My point is that if I'm prepared for the worst to happen, I don't get hurt or offended when it happens because I did not expect anything less. So it puts my mind in like a defense mode or ready to deal with any situation that may come up, whether it's positive or negative. But just be prepared for the worst case scenario, honestly, because anything can happen. And I know it's unfortunate for somebody who's commuting, like the hassle, the inconveniences that it may cause if you're trying to get off this rotation at a certain point in time so you can get on a certain flight just to get home, or you're like, it affects you in all sorts of ways, and it's quite unfortunate. And those are some of the things that makes commuting very difficult, because you're probably already low on sleep. You expected this trip to end at a certain point in time so you can go to your layover and rest, and then it gets delayed, it gets pushed back, and then the next thing you know, you've gone 24 hours without sleep. So a lot can happen within a short period of time, and it's quite unfortunate, but that's some of the hassles or the struggles of doing this job. And for me, the way that I deal with it is that I'm always prepared for the worst case scenario, and I deal with things as they come up, and I don't dwell on the negative. I just move past it like I haven't even seen it and just keep pushing, because at the end of the day, there are some good sides to this job as well. Before I move on to my next point, what all this leads into is that with delays and cancellations here and there, with you having to stay at your layover longer than you plan to, among other things, sometimes it doesn't get to the point where you get compensated for it, so then it becomes annoying, and that's what hurts people the most. So keep that in mind. But my final point when it comes to summer flying is remaining positive. Above everything else, just remain positive. Remember that there are some good to this job, and just try and focus on the why you got this job to encourage you or to motivate you to keep pushing on. With that being said, if you made it this far, hit that subscribe button. Thank you so much for watching today's video, and I'll see you in my next one. Bye-bye.